Hey everyone, John P. here. Today we're going to be talking about Breitling and what I think is their big problem. Now, I do want to share that this is, of course, just my opinion. It may be that some of the things that I say in this video might not be entirely accurately represented, just depending, because once again, I don't have access to their financials and their sales data. So all of this is going to be where I see the brand going, the things they've been releasing, some surprising releases that I think are bit of a head scratcher, if you will, and also a way that I think that they can probably recover and get back into a place where I think they were. Because if you follow this channel, and I do want to thank those of you that have been with me over the years, you'll know that I've had varying opinions on Breitling, and I've also changed my opinion, not on Breitling, but also brands over time as they change, adapt, veer, and go in a different direction. I change my opinion. I'm open to new things when things change, right? Just like on my wrist today, I have a Panerai Luminor Quaranta, the 40 millimeter Luminor that's come out in the last couple years. I've been having a blast with this watch. But if you do follow this channel, you know that in the past, maybe I've said some things about Panerai and them getting in a bit of a rut or a groove and getting stuck. And they've done the things that I've wanted them to get out, and I've changed my opinion on them. So we'll start off. What's going on with Breitling? If you've been out of the loop, Breitling's really come back as they've changed ownership over the years, all the way from going into private equity, dumping a lot of their inventory out in the gray market. Let's say between the years 2009 till 2014, 2015-ish is when kind of a lot of that dumping happened. New ownership, George Kern leading the brand and taking them into a new place, new direction, and coming out with historical models like the Premier line and so many other cool chronographs that I think add so much value, kind of pulling models out of their back catalog, like the Super Ocean Heritage line as well. And they've done some cool things, and the quality is there. And I even own a Breitling Endurance, which is a quartz watch, but I think that it just served a really great purpose that few brands out there offer in that ultra lightweight but rugged, durable, sporty watch that you could have fun with. I digress, but nonetheless, let's talk about some things that Breitling has done here recently. I'll share with you why that's an issue, and also things they're doing right now that I think are contributing to this problem that they're building for themselves that I think, unfortunately, and I see it, is starting to rub collectors the wrong way. I see it in the comments, so please feel free to chime in the comments below, and maybe someone at Breitling will see this and they'll really appreciate it, because I do know that sometimes the brands do watch these channels. Now, keep in mind, I made a video maybe about a year and a half ago. Breitling has been riding a lot of coattails of trends. You go to their website, a lot of talk still about NFTs, even though that whole craze has seemingly died down. A lot of things have happened there. So NFTs, they still are pushing sustainability, not only in their watches, but also in their website. They did a thing where you wouldn't get a actual box. You'd have to pay extra for a while, and they were just shipping kind of shipping the watch in an alternative packaging material in an effort to be more sustainable. You could opt in for a box for some price for a while. Also, they were doing the watch rental. Let's not forget about that. Breitling had a watch rental service. Let's please not forget about that, because that was kind of silly when that came out. Interesting, but another trend they were following and trying to be part of. Another thing that they wanted to do. That takes us into, they had the digital warranty cards. If you remember those, the screens would break, things like that. We'd get them in the door at Delray Watch, and honestly, they'd be quite a bit of a hassle. I get why they'd want to do that, but that was another trend they were trying to ride. And then they had all these endless amounts of partnerships and co-branded watches. Deus, Outerknown, they had the Surfers, they have the American cars. Let's not forget about all the American car series, but at the same time, they were still selling some of their older Breitling Bentley models as well. So, selling partnerships of automotives from all over the world, seemingly. And that takes us into now, where they have a big push for rugby. They do the Six Nations, the rugby partnership now. They're pushing that heavy. But at the same time, they're also pushing a Super Bowl watch on their website. So they're hitting rugby, but they're also hitting American football for Americans out there. And that takes us into, of course, they did the college sports teams. They did the college-affiliated Breitling Endurances. And now, which I think is probably the most controversial thing we'll talk about here, is they have a Victoria Beckham Chronomat 36 featuring the Breitling B10 movement, which is a 2892 base. Now, this is probably the most controversial, and I see a lot of collectors talking about this in circles, but it's also receiving a lot of praise. Essentially, Victoria Beckham, I believe she has a fashion line, and she does some other things in that kind of health and beauty space, entrepreneurial endeavors in that kind of category, more fashion, I believe, things of that nature. But of course, I believe she's married to, David Beckham, which does have some connection with Tudor. Interestingly enough, Tudor and Breitling do swap or share movements. I'll let you all have a field day with the puns in the comments below. There on the swapping and the partners, you get it. Nonetheless, we see this, and I will say that this is a big statement, a big move for Breitling. Now, Breitling doesn't seem to any longer have any kind of gendered terms on their website. Doesn't seem like they really, when I look, break up the watches between men's and women's, but that is something that you see across the board from brands. But once again, Breitling trying to get into something else, right? They also now they want to be in fashion. So they want to be a brand for collectors, for tech people, for sports players, for car drivers, for car enthusiasts, for swimmers, for motorcycle riders there with the dais. They want to be the brand for everyone. And I think this is a problem. Now, before we run into that, I do want to comment. I think the Victoria Beckham line here is actually pretty cool, especially this blue, teal, green color. I think it's awesome. I don't like the seconds hand because I really don't have any interest in them as a fashion designer or something. I don't really care at all about that. So, why would I want them on my seconds hand? Case back, fine, whatever. I'm not going to look at it. But the seconds hand to have their initials, maybe I would just replace it if I bought this. I'm thinking about it, actually. I like this example here, the 36 stainless steel with this dial. It's 2892 base. Maybe swap out a different seconds hand on it, something a little more interesting for me. Nonetheless, this is a big issue here. Breitling has fallen into the trap that so many others have gone into, and it's trying to be good at everything. And there's an adage or an old saying that says, if you try to be good at everything, you will be great at nothing. When you see businesses try to get into too many things, they really aren't known for any of those things. They're just kind of a contributor and a participant in that arena, right? They're not going to be the automotive watch company if they're also the fashion designer watch company. They're not going to be the surfer watch company if they're also the rugby watch company. How can they be the rugby watch company and also the American football watch company? How can that be? And the thing is, it can't be. It cannot be. I'd love for them to prove me wrong because I think it would be a one-off, once-in-a-lifetime thing that happened. Wow, Breitling is the known brand for every single thing. And wow, actually, that was the case. Breitling was known for their aviation instruments and their watches geared towards aviation and aviation enthusiasts, the Navitimer, and so many others. I mean, it's in the names of so many of their watches today that don't even stand or serve the purpose of aviation anymore. Look at some of the Navitimer watches. I mean, they've got Navitimer watches that are time or time date. What purpose is that serving more so than having some of the aesthetic and styling cues of the original Navitimer watches, maybe the similar bezels or, similar profiles or shapes of the lugs? I digress again here, but I think what we see here is Breitling getting in this trap where they want press releases. They want press, once again, my opinion, but they want press about being parts of all these different communities, but I don't think they can be the leader in any. And when we talk about the long-term value of a watch brand and the brands that do the best long-term and don't need to be dumped on the market, don't need to be revitalized with a new executive, don't need to try to attract people and do marketing campaigns and put them on the wrists of celebrities. Those are brands that don't try to do everything. They find their niche and they do that over and over and over again in small iterations to improvement. Think Rolex, think even Patek Philippe. They're changing up a little bit, but think of what got the brands to this place. And it's always kind of owning that thing that they do the best. Unfortunately, I know I'm a bit rambling here at this point, but I do want to drive home. And I do see Breitling getting into this trap that does ruin watch brands long term, unfortunately. But I want to know, what do you think out there? Do you think maybe they're still somehow holding true to their aviation heritage, or do you like the direction they're going in? Do you think maybe it's a more modern approach for a watch brand to kind of spread out and diversify their interest groups to appeal to a larger audience? Maybe that's what they're going for, and maybe that's just the gamble that they're going to make. Looking at how some of these things have played out, I'm not sure that that will work for them, but I'd love to see and hear your opinions in the comments below, guys. Please do not forget the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I appreciate it. You can find me on Instagram, The Real John P, and we'll see you next time. You've been chatting with John P.